Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. It's actually kind of a light week, but before we get into it, I posted it yesterday. So I got a chance to go over the free comic book day books. You can check that video out. Some of the ones that I thought were good were Bunny Mask. We have the Marvel Judgment Day, the Clementine, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Bone Orchard Mythos. Very excited about that. It was really good. The Stranger Things and DC's Dark Crisis. Just a few of those that are going to be available at your local comic shop this coming Saturday. So make sure you check that out. Support your local comic shop, and make sure that you do, when you're there, not just get some free comics, also buy some comics and graphic novels and merchandise from them, because comic shops actually have to buy those comics. They're not free to them. They pay a minimal fee per issue, but they do have to actually buy them. So by buying other stuff, you're actually supporting, helping them pay for that. Before we get to the comics, I do want to point out a really special thing that came out this week. I will get it as best I can. This is Parker the Last Call. So what this is so Darwin Cook passed away in 2016, but he had finished 2 of the Parker stories. And so they had done, for the first 2 books, they had done a Martini edition that he had curated and everything. And it's very similar to the second one. So this does reprint. I'll hold it up. It's a big one. It does reprint the 2 books that he did. But he... so the other one did have like a new story. So what this was, and this was really, really quite a treat, is that Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips did a Parker story as a tribute to Darwin and to Westlake, Donald Westlake, who wrote the original Parker novels. And also Sean Phillips helped design this one, because Darwin had designed the first one, so they kept it in line with the first one. It also has an interview with Ed Brubaker and Bruce Timm, who Darwin had worked with at Warner Brothers Animation. Excuse me. So that's really an amazing. I highly recommend the Parker books. They are available individually. You don't have to buy the big Martini books. Although that's a really nice edition. There's hardcovers of the individual novels, and they're well worth checking out. It's a really it's a shame that Darwin didn't get to finish more, but the 4 books that he did adapt are just absolutely amazing. So let's get to the regular books this week. First up, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi, number 1, written by Christopher Cantwell and artwork by Ario and Anadito. So what this is it's actually when Obi-Wan Kenobi is a young Jedi learning with Master Yoda. And so that's kind of what this story is. It's kind of a setup story to his early years, pre Ewan McGregor and then Alec Guinness in the original films. And so here's the thing. I'm not honestly, I'm not a big fan of Christopher Cantwell's, but it's a basic Star Wars story. It's nice. It is what it is. It does its job well. It's a Star Wars story. There was nothing. It's exactly what you expect, which is either a good or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. And it's fine for what it is. It's like most of the Marvel Star Wars books. There is a certain decent level quality of them. I will say Anadito's artwork is that the artwork's actually pretty nice. But it's pretty basic. It's if you're not a huge Star Wars fan, this book is not going to convince you otherwise. But if you're a Star Wars fan, you've been picking these up, then you're probably going to like it. Next up, we have Metal Society number 1, written by Zach Kaplan. with artwork by Garam Balbi. So what this is a dystopian future. I know that's a big shock. We see so few of those comics. So what it is robots really have taken the place of humans, and what the robots have done is they've kind of ultimately switched places. You know, they're generally the stories is humans create robots to do stuff that they don't want to do, but actually now it's robots. They cultivate and clone humans to have them work. So that's one of the premise. The other premise is there's going to be a fight against a human and a robot, a boxing match. And so that's kind of, so you got two kind of parallel setup stories that Kaplan writes in here. And I will say it kind of started off like, okay, this is nice and everything, but I think what made it kind of interesting was the cloning and how humans are now actually having their own babies. So they're actually kind of creating their own society again. So I thought that aspect of it was pretty interesting. And like I said, I wasn't necessarily overwhelmed, but I think there's some decent ideas here. Balbi's artwork is actually quite nice. There's some really nice artwork here. It's kind of okay. I think it's one of those ones, if we'll kind of maybe try to check out the second issue and see how it is. It's kind of okay, but I think it shows promise. So that's kind of where that landed this week. Next up, we have Nubia Coronation Special number 1, which is written by Stephanie Williams and Vita Ilea, with artwork by Margaret Savage, Colleen Duran, Daryl Banks, Jill Thompson, and Thea Martinez. So this is kind of a post Trial of the Amazons. You do not have to necessarily read that to read this. You basically just have to know, hey, Theram's, there was a bad guy, Theraschema's in kind of ruins, and Nubia is now going to be the queen of Theraschema. That's basically what you need to know. So what this is kind of looking back at Nubia's past, when she was growing up, in sort of events in her life before, the events, her becoming the queen. That's really what it is. So what it is there's the kind of short stories within this. There's the framing sequence is the artwork's by Margaret Savage, and then Duran, Banks, Thompson, and Martinez draws the individual stories. And overall, I think it was okay. I like her as a character, but I didn't think there was any of those stories were compelling. They were nice and everything, but they weren't super. Like, I didn't, you get different aspects of her, but there was nothing that was like, oh, well, that was kind of interesting. There wasn't anything that really, I felt, that brought a lot of new to the table. I will say the artwork overall is really nice. It's been quite a while since I've seen, especially Jill Thompson and Colleen Duran, so it was really nice to see their artwork again. But it kind of ended up being okay. Which I really wanted to like it more than it was, and I don't think it's bad. I think it's just okay. So next up, we have Dogs of London number 1, written by Peter Milligan, with artwork by Arcedia. So what this is think of like mafia gangs. It kind of starts in the 60s. And there's these fractions in London, and what it is this group calls themselves the Dogs. And so it kind of starts off where they're burying these bodies of these guys that they've killed. And then, so it goes, you see the stuff in the 60s, then it goes to later on where they're now, it's present day and they're older. And, so what it is they in the present, they discover the bodies that have been buried there, and the guy's like, don't worry about it, they've been buried there for like 40, 60 years. They're just gonna find bones and they won't be able to figure out who it is. And then when they dig them up, they actually you can see it's like they haven't aged in a day. So that's kind of the premise. So you kind of have Goodfellas meet kind of this Mystic Strange thing, and I think, like, I wasn't overwhelmed with it, but I do think there's some good ideas here. And I did enjoy this first issue. Of course, there's a lot of setup here, and Milligan does a decent job of that. The artwork by Arcidi is actually pretty nice. I think this shows a lot of promise. I think that's the thing. Like, even though it didn't necessarily, blow me away, I did like a lot of things about it. So I think it's kind of worth checking out. Not a huge recommendation, but I think if you're looking for something a little different, then it's worth checking out. Next up, we have Twig Number One, written by Scotty Young and artwork by Kyle Stratham. This was a big win this week. I really, really love this book. So what it is, Twig's a little a monster, whatever you want to call him. He's freaking adorable. Actually, everything in here is super adorable. And what it is his father's passed away, and he's now doing his job where he goes into this like rock mountain that's a creature, and so they dig stuff up, and they find this jewel, and he has to take it to the mystic to try to figure out they're trying to figure out what this jewel is, and that's kind of his job. And there's a twist at the end that I don't want to give away, but it's kind of it is basically the beginning of Twig's journey, and how obviously this crystal or whatever is going to play a part into it. I will say it's just freaking adorable. I think the thing that's great about it is it's a great all ages book, but it's not necessarily, it's not aimed at kids, but it certainly can be read by kids. I'd say probably about seven and up, I'd say. I don't think there's anything, they need to have some decent reading skills. But the story is just freaking adorable and cute. Scotty Young just nails it as far as like just setting this whole world up, and you just immediately fall in love with like everything. And then Stratham's artwork is just gorgeous. It is absolutely just a stunningly great looking book. And it is really amazing. It's the only knock I have is that I got to the end and I want so much more, and it's going to be really difficult waiting 30 days for the next issue. I really love this book, and it's really a big recommendation this week. Next up, we have Quest Aside number 1, written by Brian Shermer, with artwork by Elena Gogu. So what this is think of it like kind of like fairy tale land. Not that there's characters from specific fairy tales, but magic is a big thing and stuff like that. So what it is, this guy runs this bar, and it's kind of magical and stuff like that. Like when you go to the cellar's this vast, humongous cavernous thing where they store stuff. But yeah, it's like a little closet, but once you get inside, it's really big. And so what it is, the king comes and says that, hey, we're gonna have to build something here, so we're tearing down your bar. And the guy's like, well, I don't want that to happen. So that's kind of set up here. I think there was some interesting ideas here that Schrimmer brings up. I think it was a little convoluted, like the first issue. Like it was a little, not that it was like I didn't understand it. It was just more of like it didn't land well perfectly. I think he kind of threw a lot of stuff out there, and it was a bit on the disjointed side with the story. The artwork by Gogu is mostly good. There's kind of some inconsistencies with the artwork, which is a bit of a shame. But I think it kind of misses the mark. Like I thought it was okay. I kind of wanted to like it a little bit more than it really landed. Once again, I think the concept's there. I just think that it didn't come together in the script, and then a little bit of inconsistency with the art didn't help its case. So that was kind of disappointing. Next up, we have One Star Squadron number 6, written by Mark Russell with artwork by Steve Leiber. So this is the last issue. All I got to say is shame on you for not buying this book, because this book is amazing. And what's really great about it, so the first 5 issues were the 1-star squadron, and then in the last issue the place burns down, the company who owned it probably burn it down for the insurance money. And so what it is so it's Red Tornado. Ultimately, he's kind of taking care of what's left of the straggling team, the ones who need it. And I don't want to really say too much because it really, I don't want to give anything away, because this ending was absolutely brilliant. And what made it was that it was very emotional. And you just don't see that in a lot of comics, especially mainstream comics, where it was really heartfelt. And I think the one thing that I've really loved about this series is how Russell has really developed Red Tornado as an amazing character. And it just, once again, he's a robot, but Russell has infused him with so much humanity. It's amazing. And then it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. And like I said, it was really, this last issue was very emotional. It was really nice epilogue to what this story was, and just finished it in grand style. And when you just, I mean, it really took my breath away. And then you get Lieber's artwork that is just, it's so on point, and he really captures the visual emotions of Russell's script, and it's just really wonderful. I cannot recommend this book enough. And when the trade comes out, really, please pick up this book. It is really good. It is so much worth your time. Next up, we have The Rocketeer, The Great Race, #2, written and drawn by Stephen Mooney. So Cliff has been picked to pilot this new jet. And so what this is there's pilots from all around the world. And so that's the setup here. And so, of course, it's still set during, roughly World War II. There's Nazis and everything. There's going to be Nazis. Always works well with the Rocketeer. Because, once again, you can punch Nazis, and who doesn't love punching Nazis? And so what it is it's still kind of setting up. We get to the beginning of the race where we start to see the villain come into play. Nazis. I know, shock. And so what it is Mooney's just kind of building on nicely on what happened in the first issue, and he does a nice job, and he continues the story really well to where I'm intrigued what he's doing. He really captures what Dave Stevens created in the Rocketeer. He captures Cliff, Peavy, and Betty just perfectly, and visually he really it's very much his style, but there's no gray area that he is very much playing in Dave Stevens' world also visually, because he's keeping it within that wheelhouse of Stevens' look, and that is actually a really nice touch. I'm really enjoying this. I'm a big fan of the Rocketeer, and anytime there's a new Rocketeer book, I'm always game for it. And this is really good, and I'm excited to see kind of where Mooney takes it. Next up, we have The Punisher #2, written by Jason Aaron, with artwork by Jesus Says and Paul Azitza. So this actually came out last week. I know I missed it, so I'm reviewing it this week because I actually did really enjoy the first issue. So now the Punisher, Frank Castle, he's with the Hand, and he's kind of become this like Punisher ninja. What I really liked about this issue is it goes back in time. That's why there's the two artists. And so you have the main artist, which I think is Says, and I believe the flashbacks, I could be wrong, I could be mixing them up, but Asita is doing the flashbacks. So it's him as a young, so you're kind of seeing Frank Castle as a kid, and you're seeing that like he's been the Punisher from day one. This is his plan in life, and it's really quite fascinating how I have to give it to Aaron that he's created a really interesting story here, where that the Hand believes that Frank Castle's been basically born to lead them, and that's really what we're seeing here. And so but you also have the what I guess you could say the mobs and stuff that the Hand is going after, because their whole thing is killing people that are bad. And so the mafias, basically the mafias are kind of pissed, and like they're just like, we got to go after the Hand, and there's infighting, but now there's a new kind of head mafia, a new godfather, and I will not spoil that because it's in the last page. But overall, it's really interesting, and Aaron's moving the story along quite nicely. The artwork by Saz and Asita is really nice. I've been quite surprised. I think it's still worth checking out, and I really like this second issue. And finally, we have Batman Killing Time, number 3, written by Tom King, with artwork by David Marquez. So this issue we have, so the Penguin has sent a hitman to take care of Riddler and Catwoman, who have stolen something. And so within that, Batman shows up. He figures out where they are out in the cabin in the woods. And so him and the hitman, well, first he shoots the Riddler. So Catwoman like takes him out the back. It's like, we got to get the hell out of here. Then we have Batman going up against the hired killer. And it doesn't go well for Batman. I actually really like that aspect of King's script in this story, that Batman is, can be, he's been taught really well, but if somebody also knows what he has been taught, that makes an interesting villain. And it actually gives him somebody to go up against the villain that's not necessarily super powered or kind of crazy. Well, he's crazy because he's a bad guy, but I found that really interesting. And so that we have kind of the dual stories of Catwoman trying to save the Riddler's life, because whatever they have stolen, they need to sell, because there's money involved, lots of money. And so, but there's also this story of what they have stolen. So so King brings that up in this issue, where it's kind of like, we don't know what it is, but I could say it's similar to like the Holy Grail or something like that. And so that opens up a whole new can of worms into the story. So we have Batman getting his butt kicked. We have Riddler that might be dying. We have Penguin who's on life support in the hospital. And we have this new hitman that is just very interesting. So there's a lot of story in the blender here, folks. But I will say King really does a nice job of keeping track of it, because as I said with the last issue, there was a lot of time jumps, but he's very specific about this is this time, say 2 hours ago or 5 years ago and stuff like that. So you never feel like you get lost. And Marquez, the artwork's really nice on this book. I'm really enjoying it. I'm a big fan of Tom King, and I like that this is a just not a standard Batman story. I like that it's really, Batman's kind of not really, it hasn't been in it that much, and I actually like that fact. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes for the rest of the story, because I'll finish this one off. I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Tom King, and Marquez is doing a really nice job in the artwork. So that's going to do it this week. Like I said, it's a pretty small week, but public service announcement. As always, I get my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics, Long Beach, California. Ryan runs a great store. He's the owner. Annie and Eduardo are there helping out. Wendy's been helping out, pricing books. She's just wonderful. We always, she's like our Marvel girl. She reads all the new Marvel comics. So if we have Marvel questions, we just go to Wendy. Derek Easley runs all their social media. And he also films their Tuesday night unboxing. You should check that out. Also, they have a great Facebook page. If you live more in the LA area, there's Pulp Fiction Culver City, which is run by Chris and her team. Separate stores, same name. Check them out. They both stores offer discounts on trades and graphic novels. They offer a great pull service. They're really, really good comic stores. in the LA area and in the Long Beach area. So definitely check that out and always support your local comic shop. It's very important. And once again, we're going to say, don't forget the Saturday is Free Comic Book Day. Hopefully you'll be able to go to your local comic shop. There's a ton of books this year. Not too many clunkers in the bunch. Like I said, you can watch the review video. I'll put the link in the comments for that, or you can just go to our page from this video and check it out, and like and share as always. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and as we always end our show with being kind, be kind to each other, be kind to strangers. Being kind is not only good for them, but it can be good for you. And please be safe, especially with this weekend. Please be safe out there. It's really important to because things are still a little struggling. But be safe and be kind. That's how we'll end this show. Thanks for watching, and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.